Behind every reserve currency collapse lies an unseen cycle of imperial debt, global trust erosion, and fiscal recklessness that silently dismantles entire empires. This decay unfolds slowly, hidden beneath layers of global faith and money stability. Yet, the warning signs are always there, waiting to be read. What if the collapse of today's dominant currency isn't a sudden shock, but a slow unraveling scripted by centuries-old forces? We often think currency collapses are unpredictable, isolated events triggered by war or crisis. But what if these collapses share a deeper, hidden pattern? The fall of reserve currencies is never about a single cause. Instead, it's a convergence of imperial ambitions, mounting debt, and fractured global trust. These forces stretch across centuries and continents, weaving a silent script that repeats with striking regularity. This is not just economic history, it is the history of empires themselves, inseparable from how power, war, and money intertwine. To understand reserve currency collapse, we must see beyond finance into the geopolitical and military pressures that strain monetary foundations. Only then can we decode the real story hiding beneath the headlines and market panic. What seems like chaos is actually a repeating pattern, scripted by the weight of empire and debt accumulation. Our journey will expose how these ancient forces still shape the financial fate of today's world, and perhaps how understanding them might offer warnings we can no longer afford to ignore. At the heart of every reserve currency collapse lies a web of military spending, sovereign debt, and eroding trust between nations and markets. Military overreach demands funding far beyond a nation's productive capacity. This triggers borrowing on an unprecedented scale. Debt piles up, often hidden within complex financial instruments, masking the true risk from the public and foreign holders alike. When trust begins to crack, global investors start to question a country's ability to repay, not just principal, but the value of its currency itself. This doubt spreads quickly, destabilizing markets and forcing governments to print money to meet obligations, fueling inflation and further devaluation. The cycle feeds on itself, turning confidence into fear and prosperity into economic collapse. Throughout history, this cycle repeats, each time leaving a different empire and its currency in ruins. Yet, the global financial order always rebuilds itself, temporarily installing a new reserve currency to carry the next cycle forward. Understanding these invisible forces reveals why no currency reigns forever, no matter how dominant it seems today. Take the British pound, which ruled global finance for over a century, powered by the British Empire's naval dominance and colonial wealth. Its downfall was not a single event but decades of mounting war debt from the two world wars, combined with rising competition from the United States. By 1944, the Bretton Woods Conference officially crowned the US dollar as the new global reserve currency, signaling a geopolitical shift. But this new order was built on U.S. military power and debt, financed by borrowing and printing money during and after World War II. The Vietnam War and Cold War spending pushed America's public debt into uncharted territory, raising doubts about dollar stability. In 1971, Nixon ended dollar convertibility to gold, unraveling Bretton Woods and igniting a global currency realignment. This moment marked a shift from stability to floating currencies, setting a new precedent in monetary policy and global finance. Yet, underlying pressures remained. Deficits grew, debt expanded, and trust in the dollar began to waver during subsequent financial crises. The dollar continued to wield dominance, but each crisis chipped away at the invisible foundations beneath it. This slow erosion sets the stage for questions about what happens when the next phase of decline arrives. Moving beyond history, today's reserve currency system still carries these old vulnerabilities wrapped in new global complexities. The dollar remains dominant, yet massive U.S. debt, military commitments, and politically driven monetary policy cast long shadows. Global trust is being tested by trade wars, sanctions, and shifting alliances, forces unseen but critical to currency stability. Moreover, the rise of digital currencies and alternative payment systems could accelerate trust erosion if mishandled. The United States faces mounting pressure to balance enormous defense budgets with economic growth and political consensus. If this balance slips, it could intensify doubts about the dollar's reserve status, much like past empires before it. But unlike before, today's global economy is interconnected in ways that could amplify consequences far beyond borders. This complexity adds new dimensions to an old cycle, deepening stakes for every nation reliant on reserve currencies. Understanding these dynamics is crucial to anticipating the future of global finance as the cycle once again turns. The stakes are rising as global debt hit record levels, surpassing $300 trillion by 2020, straining governments worldwide. America's persistent deficits and military spending make it increasingly difficult to sustain faith in the dollar indefinitely. Meanwhile, rising powers like China challenge dollar dominance by advancing alternatives such as the yuan's growing international use. Trade disputes and sanctions add volatility, fueling fears that the global trust underpinning the dollar is fraying. If trust breaks down, it could trigger rapid shifts in capital flows, unsettled markets, and profound economic consequences worldwide. The question looms: are we witnessing the early chapters of a systemic unraveling, or is global finance resilient enough to endure? Today, the dollar's reserve status remains unchallenged, yet the shadows of past collapses resonate loudly beneath its surface. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed fiscal vulnerabilities and reliance on emergency monetary interventions like never before. Inflationary pressures surged worldwide, echoing past periods where trust and value simultaneously eroded under fiscal strain. Geopolitical tensions, from Russia's invasion of Ukraine to trade realignments, continue to challenge the dollar's unshakable image. Underneath the surface, new digital currencies and blockchain innovations test the monopoly of traditional reserve systems. These forces combine in ways unseen before, making the current financial landscape volatile and unpredictable. What most people miss is that collapse is never a sudden event. It's a drawn-out decay woven through debt, trust, and power shifts. Each empire's fall stems from the same invisible patterns: prolonged military expenditures and political choices that strain finances. Even today, policy decisions that appear isolated actually feed this ongoing cycle, tightening the noose around dominant currencies. Recognizing this makes the difference between feeling helpless and seeing the possible signs before the storm arrives. The hidden cycle reveals that reserve currency collapse is not fate, but consequence, shaped by decisions and repeated mistakes over centuries. It's a cycle where military ambition, economic policies, and trust repeatedly collide, ripping the foundations of financial empires apart. Yet, within this pattern also lies opportunity. Understanding provides the clarity to navigate risks and perhaps delay or soften collapse. History's lessons remind us that every empire's fall feeds the rise of the next, continuing the relentless cycle of global finance. Our present moment is but a chapter, a page turning with echoes from the past, urging vigilance and understanding before the next turn. If history teaches us anything, it's that knowledge is the first step to preparedness. Stay with us to explore more hidden patterns shaping our world's economic and political landscapes. Subscribe and join our journey through history, money, empire, and the forces that bind them. Because understanding these cycles might be the key to navigating the uncertain future ahead.